I'm Dorothy Rowe, and the video you're about to watch is a clip from a live webinar. If you enjoy the content of this video, please like and subscribe. I'd love to hear your comments. Thank you. The healing algorithm, as a brief description, is bringing awareness, which is usually more up here on the surface of experience, like concrete thoughts, right? And following a thought deeper, down to its more abstract form, down to its feeling form, down to the individual impulses of intelligence that are behind that thought, and then down to the most abstract level. And experiencing the source of creation. And when there's a problem at the surface, we put the attention with the thought, you could say the thought that is the vehicle for the quieting down of the mind into the source of creation, is this experience of the discomfort. So when we first have a discomfort or a problem, and that can be a physical discomfort, or it can be some life situation, relationship problem, or financial, or whatever, we can look at it from a more superficial perspective. We can look at it from a finer perspective. One of the keys to looking at the problem from a finer perspective, which we talked about yesterday, and I'm just so grateful to have had the opportunity to cover this, was that there's this old pattern in human awareness that when there's a problem on the surface, to associate ego with the problem, to associate individuality and who we are as individuals with the problem. Oh, well, that's my problem and I deserved it because I'm a bad person, or I'm not good enough, I failed somehow, I messed up, whatever. And that kind of like it turns back onto oneself, and this sense of self gets sort of gripped into the problem itself. And when that happens, a little vicious cycle or a loop is created that tends to be self-feeding. And this is the mechanic by which chronic disease, illnesses, or long-term ongoing problems are locked into the physiology. They don't lock in. If the individuality, if the sense of self doesn't get sort of gripped into that, the discordant feelings and the unhealthy patterning of the threads of consciousness, if the sense of self doesn't, then the problem tends to resolve rather quickly. But it's when we start, the sense of self gets in there, it's because I'm a bad person, or sometimes it's because I experienced these traumas in my past, right? Because of somebody who was mean to me or something. So, because it's so important and it's so old and it's been with us for so long. So I'm just feeling into the group here and feeling into that sense of self and looking at the mechanism under the microscope in more detail. Why is it and how is it that when a problem crops up, that there's this very natural tendency for the individual to get sort of gripped in their sense of self, gets gripped into it. And I'd say the answer to that is very simple, that the problem crops up in the first place. The problem cropping up is when the hero gets cast out onto the streets, and then the ego getting caught up in it is the expression. It's a purification expression that is required to help the individual step back from individual ego expression and see exactly what is the part of me that's inclined to get caught up in that, and how can I come into more my essential nature, know myself. This is what ego is self-knowing. Know myself to be larger than that, bigger than that, more powerful, more flexible, more strong than that. So the catching of the ego means that there's some stripping away of non-essential self. And we don't want to say that the ego is non-essential. The ego is essential. If there's a key to energy healing here, anything you take away, it's that your ego is essential. It's important. And without it, we can't navigate this world effectively by any means. And we can't find our way back to wholeness without it. But so what is it? There are something energetically, it looks like little talons or outcroppings on the ego that are like, that allow it to kind of connect on to these experiences and discord, that allow it to kind of connect on to discord. Oh, that's very interesting. And the problem is that the connection is there specifically to support your ability to go beyond the discord. But the pattern over the course of time is that the connecting on the talons, the little hooks, I'm picturing the way certain types of neurochemicals hook into cells, right? Because the knot of karma is a little bit like a cell, right? On the inside, it has its internal components, which are give it its life force and its ability to bring experiences about. And then it's got the cell wall, and the ego has this way of like sort of hooking into nodes on the cell. We want to call them nodes on the cell wall, those little discordant points, particular types of discordant feelings that resonate more with some people's egos than others. So it's like those particular imbalances and have those particular types of discordant feelings that will grip you, because there's some types that don't grip people, and everybody's different. We're all a little bit different. So what happens is when the karma comes back, or when the particular individual specific challenge is being faced, it customizes itself to accommodate that particular aspect, some particular aspect of the sense of self that is inhibiting complete awareness and complete experience of oneself at the cosmic level, cosmic self, wholeness or totality. I have to drink a lot more water in this part of the country. Thank you for understanding. This actually ties into another question that came up, which I wanted to touch on. I'm not seeing it in that email, but I just read it a few moments ago. And the lady said that she was meditating before the webinar in the tub. And she yesterday asked the question about the presence of the Mother of Creation, Mother Divine. And my point to her was that as long as we think, oh, Mother Divine is out there somewhere, and I as the individual am here somewhere, it means that there's this potential for more integration to occur, because essentially there is one story only happening. And that's what the picture was about, shows that one story in a nutshell, but this one story of wholeness evolving through us. So that closeness, that feeling of closeness to Mother Divine, and that ability for the heart energy center to bring forward that level of cosmic love and cosmic wisdom is directly associated with the egos, with the evolution of the ego. The evolution of the ego to expand to this, it has to be stable, to expand to the collective level of creation, to the one wholeness level of creation. This is happening as a healing. It's a shift that's taking place in the gap. Right there is this direct support for the sense of self for everyone. It's definitely one of the keys of energy healing, is recognizing. All we have to do is recognize it. Once you step back enough, your sense of self, who you are, is able to do this step back thing. It's kind of like a move of the ego, essentially, or the move of the self, is that we're in a difficult situation and we step back from the difficult situation. So we're looking at it more from a zoomed out perspective. But now we're turning that around and doing it on the ego, on the sense of self itself. So the sense of self, which has the ability to step back and get the zoomed out perspective, is zooming out on its own nature, on its own self. How far can it zoom out? Can it zoom out to infinity? So much bliss. When it zooms out, the bliss comes. So when the ego is a little bit gripped, remember I was saying like a cell, and it kind of gets stuck, it gets a little bit caught up in those discordant feelings. That's not bliss. But then when it is able to untwist itself from that and zoom out and look at that seed of karma from the zoomed out perspective. And in this case, the seed of karma is actually a huge collective seed of karma that we've carried for multiple generations and centuries of lifetimes. And the karma is the tendency or the nature of the sense of self to get gripped or caught in the pain of the human experience, of human experiences. So this is healing for the whole collective, and bless you all for being the ones. You are the ones, whether you're with me here live right now, or you're watching this on YouTube, heaven knows how many years in the future or whatever. You are the ones. We are the ones who are doing this together, going into the gap. This was all evolving from that question about the healing algorithm, but how the organ, we could say the sense of self is the organ, or the ego is the organ that allows us to zoom back and get a perspective on things, how it's able to turn onto its own nature and zoom out and get a perspective on itself, and how the stripping away of all non-essential aspects of its own nature, which is a purification process. And that is absolutely another one of the keys of energy healing is purification. That purification process becomes set in a context of understanding that is so rich that instead of it being purification being associated with discomfort and discord and unpleasantness, the purification process can be navigated comfortably, gracefully, in a dignified manner. We like the dignity part of it. I think the dignity is a really important part. And we all have to go through changes. But if we can go through those changes in a way that not only as individuals, but also everyone else involved also can retain some dignity. This is the dignity. The dignity reflects back to ego, right? Because it's that loss of dignity that sort of like hurts the individual ego, right? But part of the secret is non-attachment, not minding too much. If something has to go, so it goes. Even if the dignity has to go, so it goes. The experience of purification can be processed in such a way that one's dignity is retained, even if the superficial changes on the surface are outside of the traditional comfort zone. There's always a way to put it in perspective. There's always a way to zoom out and to understand it in the context of wholeness so that it fits. And that is happening. And what I'm seeing happening in the collective is that this zooming out ability is going back through time to all these, and we did this yesterday too. We were kind of going back in time to all those points of trauma and suffering and difficulty that left little marks or scars. They left sanskaras. That's the Sanskrit word for it. On the soul, little impressions and memory patterns on the soul. And each one we're zooming out enough to provide the perspective required to put it, to reconnect with wholeness, to reconnect with the bigger picture, the whole story, and see how appropriate, where is the appropriateness? Where is that spark of divinity? Where is that point of fullness that allows your potential to be expressed even in that moment, even in those difficult moments? It's a kind of a washing. We went into the purification. The purification is moving through the fabric, the fine fabric of the soul at this level that's deeper than space and time. So it's moving through this very, very delicate level of the soul where all those little threads that comprise the seeds of karma, right? Because karma is the return on past actions. But the return is so beautiful, and it's so appropriate and lovely when the individual pieces that were activating the pain are removed. So it's not that we don't pay the old debts. We do pay the old debts, but we pay them in a context that allows a person to maintain their dignity and to do it in a way that's comfortable and gracious and easy, graceful, gracious, easy, comfortable, appropriate. We can do it. We can do it. We can. I'm feeling it's like the big self, your big self right now in this moment, and us and our big collective, because we're supporting and holding each other up. And so we're like a big collective that's looking to the energy field of the whole larger human collective and acting like a sort of a embrace of compassion and mercy and sweetness. This is the part that really drives. It's like it gives the energy that drives the healing forward into this larger expression, this cosmic expression, going to the cosmic body. So not just human, but also out into that larger cosmic field of creation. It makes so much sense to me because the planets are they create just the right kinds of pressures from the exterior that allow particular karmas to come through. So this is a healing not just for our bodies, our human physical bodies, but it's also a healing for those larger cosmic bodies, for the larger, our solar system and its relationship to the larger galactic sphere around it. That's why that big wave from the heart was coming through, that wave of Mother Divine energy. And it takes that level, it takes like a really cosmic level of love to be able to take the healing that was like a little fractal, right? It was like our little shape of that little guy over there, and then extend it. The love goes into the pattern when the pattern is just right, and it blossoms it open so it goes to the cosmic field. Oof. So beautiful, so perfect. Amazing, amazing.